Okay, so now we're back home and it's time to review our images and get them ready to turn in. Let's take a look. Alright, so I have my images here and it looks like I ended up with 8. Now, you might not have this many. It kind of depends on your lens and how, what aperture range you have on your lens. You probably can go to f22 as the smallest, but it's usually the largest aperture that kind of changes with the lens. So like this lens I used goes up to 2.8, some might be f4, some might be f5.6. So whatever it is fine. If you have f6, then maybe you just have 6 photos. If you have f4, you probably have 7, 2.8, you'll probably have 8 like I do. If you use a lens with an even larger aperture, then you'll have maybe another photo or 2. Whatever it is, it's fine. I'm not going to dock you for not having a specific aperture range. But let's go ahead and take a look at these full screen to see if we can tell whether changing the aperture really did anything or not. Okay, so I'm going to hit F to go full screen. Alright, so here's the sculpture I was photographing, and my focus was on this, area right here that says art on it. You can see that this whole area right here, this little column thing, is pretty much in focus. It looks like it falls out of focus a little bit right here, but right here it's nice and clear. This is all nice and clear here. The area in front is out of focus, the area behind is out of focus. So right now, for this photo, the depth of field is, from like right here to right around here. Alright, let's go to the next photo. Okay, so one noticeable thing is the exposure got a little bit darker. Might have been a slight change in the lighting, but I think we still have a pretty good exposure, so I'm not worried about that part. But let's look at the depth of field. So back here is still looking pretty much the same. Up here we're starting to get a little bit more detail. So this little funny face right here, I can kind of see the edge of this area is starting to be a little bit more clear. Next photo, and now the entire little face, and look at this whole area right here is starting to become in focus. What about back here? Back here, not so much still. Okay, let's go to the next photo. Alright, so now this back column, so like right up here is starting to come into focus, and down here, all of this area is definitely in focus now, so it's within the depth of field. Next photo. Alright, this column is now starting to come into focus now. This column back here is in focus. All of this is. Let's go to the next photo. Alright, now this column looks like it's pretty much in focus, and this one's starting to come into focus. Pretty cool. It looks like this area is, still a little bit out. Okay, and let's go to the next photo. Okay, so I can see right over here that this area is now nice and in focus also. It looks like all the way back to here is in focus. Let's see, was that the last one? Okay, I think that was the last one. So really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and move the photo with my largest aperture so it's next to the one with my smallest aperture so we can really get like a before and after effect. Alright, let me hit F to go full screen again. So here's the one at 2.8. This column is nice and in focus. And wow, what a difference. When you put the two side by side, you can really see how much of a difference there is from f2.8 to f16. Now, this photo would be nice for more like showcasing a lot of the different areas, whereas the photo before really brings our attention right to this area right here. So Aperture can be a great way to really direct your audience or your viewers' sight and tell them, hey, this is what's the most important thing in a photo. I want you to look right here. But at the same time, there's times when maybe you want them to look at everything, that everything in the photo is important. In this case, there's like, context, and we can see repeating patterns and shapes and such that maybe that's important for the photo. So I know I've said this before, but there is no right or wrong settings for anything. It's really just about what you're trying to communicate. All right, so let's get this ready to turn in real quick. Let me hit F to get out of full screen. And I'm just going to come back here to, oh, before I do that, let's move this first photo back up here. I want to make sure these are in order. Yep, there's my 2.8. Very good. I'm going to come back up here to that print tab, and we're going to set this up like the metering project. So I'm going to click on this first one here. I'm going to hold down Shift and click on the last image, and it's going to select all 8 in order. Now I have all this extra blank space, so I'm going to play with these settings just a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to go down to 2 rows, and I'm going to go to 4 columns, so I have 4 photos on each row. And if you have, you can make your decisions on how you want to do this. I'm not going to be picky. You don't have to have 2 rows or whatever works for you, your photos and the amount that you ended up with. And let's see, the cell spacing is fine. If you wanted to move this stuff around, you totally can. Oops, didn't need to do that one. If something ends up like this, you just move some sliders around and you'll find it. Now the one little thing that's bugging me is I've got my underscore at the beginning of each name, and that's because if you remember from our metering project, we added titles into here. So I'm going to change that real quick. I'm going to come down here so it's under the page area. We have photo info and the custom settings. Let's click here and go to edit. And all we got to do is delete this front area. So I'm just going to click here, and you see my cursor's there. I'm going to hit delete and delete. All right. And you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm actually going to get rid of the underscore, because this is going to read like, for instance, 1/125th of a second at f2.8. I'm going to add at there. Space at. And then it'll give me my ISO. Why don't I put ISO? At ISO. Okay. New space. Let's see. Oh, it just doubled up the ISO. Let's go back over here. Okay. Done. Alright, cool. So now we have 1/125th of a second at f2.8 at ISO 100. Now I'm going to be able to see your settings for the photos you took and see that you did the work. Perfect. So let's go ahead and get this ready to, export this basically. Well, not export. In this case, it's print to file. If you want to play with, the size of the paper, that's under custom file dimensions. You totally can play with that if you want. If you don't have time, that's fine too. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with this. Click print to file. And save this as Redondo _ photo 6 _ Aperture project. Awesome. And I'll make sure I save this in the right place. Aperture project. Save. Okay, and you can see right up here that it is doing that file. And once it's done, just got to turn it into the assignment page, and we're done. Good job, guys.